morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am hanging in there. Hold up. There we go, there we go. Hi.
How are you
Welcome.
doing?
Yesterday when you caught me, I was so busy.
I can
I haven't
imagine.
seen,
It's
oh
just
my,
so hot. I'm losing
yeah,
this.
yes, it is hard. Yeah, it's an audio podcast. And
Yeah.
but we're gonna have some of it online as well. Actually, let me take my do not disturb off because I'm getting a lot of messages. Ricardo should be joining us today as well. I'm
Oh,
not sure.
really? Wonderful.
Yes, hopefully he does. There we go. Well, let me begin officially. Welcome, my good brother. My name is Renaldo McKenzie. Welcome, guys, to the Neoliberal Round podcast. I have with me a dynamic, a sensational, an amazing brother. We hit at when I was at Penn. When we were at Penn, I was doing my master's and he was doing his doctorate, and then he moved on and do greater things. And we're going to get into that a little bit more. But he's now a professor. And I got him up early on a Saturday morning. Good morning, Professor Dr. Andre Curry Isaacs. Welcome to the Neoliberal Round podcast.
Thank you for having me. Such a spirited introduction. It's been a number of years since we've connected, but this is fantastic. It's really good to talk to you.
A long time, and that's why I actually it's very hot, but I did pull out my pension because we are connected in ways. We're from Jamaica, and I'm from Jamaica, and of course he's a black brother and I'm a black brother, but not that I'm celebrating that, but I celebrate all races because that's what we are about. But we connect in so many ways. He plays tennis. I don't know if he's still good. He was great.
I still play. I don't know if I'm still good, but I'm still playing. But I think you're right, though, Renaldo. The shared experiences have really brought us together. Our mutual love for tennis, or both growing up in Jamaica and also like going to Penn. It's we were meant to be friends, lifelong friends.
Lifelong friends, and today the topic is life, science, and breakthrough. And I say life, science, and breakthrough, all the way talking about you. And I want to get into your story so that people can know you come from I wrote a book on globalization, looking at the dynamics of the global south and the global west, and the global north and the global south, post-industrial country, and the third are developing countries. And we are from developing countries. And when I came to Penn, it interested me. So I was studying, looking at people, looking at places. Why is there poverty? Why is there inequality? How do you get out of it? But here, you are a young man who come from Jamaica, and you went to an Ivy League college, or you went to UCLA to do your postdoctorate, yes, and then you're a professor, a chemist, so to speak. People want to hear your story. How is it that you were able, and the journey? What is your journey? I know we met up. We never got into it, but how is it that you were able? Tell us a little bit about yourself. How you, as a boy growing up, and how your life has been. What has been your journey?
Thank you. I think what defines my success is one that was littered with opportunity.
Yes.
And I would have to say that I am where I am today because a number of people along the way invested in me, from a child all the way up through my secondary and post-secondary education. And I think it's that investment in the youth, no matter where they come from, that really matters. So to share my story, I would say, I grew up in Kingston, Jamaica, right? And I had a very tough childhood. I lived with my grandmother because my mother couldn't afford to work multiple jobs and take care of a child. And so I lived with my grandmother, who was amazing. And, but my mother recognized that, education was kind of my ticket out.
Yes.
Out of poverty. And so, those two jobs she was working really were to be able to afford to send me to a good grade school, so I could get the foundational, knowledge to move on. And that in itself already makes me realize one of the big problems with our society, and that is education is not cheap. And I promise you, if my mother didn't invest in getting me that kind of education, I might not have been here today, because I wouldn't have been able to realize my potential early on and then be able to be competitive for high schools that are well respected and regarded and everything else. So luckily, I ended up in high school. I went to St. George's College High School for boys.
And I was going to ask you what school you went to.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good school, an all-boys school, a very good school in Jamaica.
Very good school. And then from then on, I decided to, tragedy actually hit my family around the end of my high school. I was all set to go to high school, to go to college in Jamaica, to the University of the West Indies.
Yes.
Unfortunately, in that summer, right before, while we were taking all of our exams, our GCEs and our qualifying exams for our A levels for college acceptance, my uncle was brutally murdered. He was the one who really inspired me and taught me a lot of this foundational science, chemistry, biology, much of math, much of what I struggled with in high school. He
struggled in math.
Yeah, yes, I did in high school. I mean, it changed.
Yeah.
I attribute my success in the sciences to him, because I really struggled in high school. And that's the other piece. It's the community education, where you need people to help, young children, those who understand the material, to help each other, so you can make sure the kids are learning what they need. But yes, tragedy struck. He died, and I didn't have that guidance or that role model anymore. And I decided to take a year off. And during that year, I applied to colleges in the U.S., and that's why I ended up going to college in the United States. And,
wow.
Discovered my passion for chemistry in college, and then I found some great mentors who really pushed me and believed in me and told me that I should go to graduate school, do a PhD. And I was like, me do a PhD? Like, yeah, you are the real deal. You should. You're destined for this. So, that led to went to University of Pennsylvania, where we met. And then after that, I actually did my postdoctoral work at University of California, Berkeley, UC Berkeley. So in Northern California, and that led to me getting a position back at my alma mater, where I went to college, at the College of the Holy
I am so sorry. Could you hold on a second? I'm having a problem. I cannot hear you. That was an interview I did some time ago with an adjunct professor at College of the Holy Cross, Dr. Andre Isaacs, where we talked about his life. We talked about COVID. We talked about the need for science literacy. Just so you know, I actually just posted a tweet, and I might reference this briefly in the podcast today, where I said some time ago in a tweet, and I'm actually trying to find the tweet that I had. I can't find it. If I could find it here, let me bring it up here real quickly. I said some time ago in a tweet, as it relates to COVID, I said COVID was said to have been developed so quickly as a result of mRNA technology. And you know this, I did a podcast some time ago with Professor Andre Isaacs, and I showcased that podcast episode in this mashup of episodes today. But COVID was said to have been developed so quickly as a result of mRNA technology. But now we must question Mr. Dr. Andre Isaacs, and question the science that informed us or told us of that. We must now question that, as we learned that a lab in China benefited from US and European investors, and that the said lab in China was already working on a vaccine to cure the virus, in which said research led to the pandemic. I find that to be quite interesting. Very, very interesting. So I'm going to replay an episode I did with Dr. Andre Isaacs, where he
We just played a bit of it for you, and later on, towards the end of the show, we'll play the rest of it. It's about 58 minutes of the interview I did with Dr. Andre Isaacs, talking about mRNA technology, using ring cycles to improve the efficacy of drugs, and so on and so forth. So, welcome to the Neoliberal Round podcast. What is life that I should live it? What is life that I should make of it? Ups and downs, around, about. My mind can't take it anymore. I want out, just to be free like anyone else, making worth of life. They say life is about the people and how people relate. How must I fit? I want to be free, free to live, free to reign. Oh God, where are you? Are you there? Are you here? To make me free from sin and shame, the pain which perseveres. Welcome to another episode of the Neoliberal Round podcast. I am Renaldo McKenzie. That was just music by yours truly. Part 1 of a rendition entitled What is Life? Part 2 of the rendition will come sometime in the future. But today's episode is a mashup of several segments that I had done over several days ago. One with a fraternity brother of mine, Mr. Maurice Smith from Phi Beta Sigma fraternity. We were traveling in the car and we were discussing what's coming up next on the Neoliberal Round podcast. But there's lots happening in the world. One, the abrupt firing of Mr. Don Lemon from CNN, who has worked at CNN for over 17 years. I understand. I actually tweeted yesterday that I noticed that when some black anchors, um, uh, some black anchors get terminated, but their white counterparts leave. I'm talking, and then soon after, I learned that Mr. Tucker Carlson from Fox has decided to leave. He wasn't terminated, but he decided to part ways with Fox, stemming from the Dominion Fox controversy. But that's so I commented on that via Twitter, and we won't get into that much today. But my fraternity brother challenged that, saying that there are others who have been terminated. But I'm talking about major reporters. But that's beside the point. But there's also other news. Some time ago, I lectured at the Jamaica Theological Seminary, and we discussed the issue of immigration. And on the issue of immigration, if you did not hear it, but I shared a story, which also Television Jamaica had broadcast, the fact that many Jamaicans are using the border, the Mexico-U.S. border, to come into the U.S. and that as a result, that's stemming from the fact that the U.S. Embassy in Jamaica has banned, is not issuing any more visas to Jamaicans. Not until 2024, we are learning, and that there is a huge backlog, and that people who have paid to have interviews and so on, they would have to wait until 2024 before they can, and then the issuance won't be until 2025. But we're hearing of that. But so what people are doing now is that they are crossing the border through Mexico, and of course we are learning that they're using Panama and other neighboring states or nations to go into Mexico to get into the U.S. But now Panama and other neighboring countries in the Americas that border Mexico, U.S. are now preventing Jamaicans from coming into their countries. But for some reason they are still finding their way across the border, and I understand that Jamaicans are also will also pay U.S. immigration officials to securely bring them to a particular point to meet their counterparts to take them into the U.S. But that's what happened when there are systems and laws that are draconian. Then it creates an underground economy. There has and on the issue of Title 5 or whatever the title, immigration title, that is ending, that extend amnesty to immigrants and so on. That's ending, and that's going to go creating some underground or underground kind of reaction or some kind of situation that is not tenable, and that and so what we need to do is we need to look at immigration. As I said, unless we deal with the problem of competition, we won't deal with immigration. But this is the Neoliberal Round podcast, and if you get a chance to listen to the last lecture, Caribbean Thought, lecture 13, then you will hear me discuss several issues as it relates to the immigration problem, and what's going on with the U.S., Mexico, and Jamaica. But I also talk about look at an overview of the socio-economic context of Jamaica. This is the Neoliberal Round podcast. I'll be right back after this. I have a major announcement as it relates to neoliberalism, globalization, income inequality, poverty, and resistance. An academic non-fiction textbook that I wrote and was published in 2021. It is a book that I wrote that I wrote while I was doing research at the University of Pennsylvania between 2010 and 2013, and also beyond. But the book was published, and it was my global distribution and printing partners was Ingram Spark. Ingram Spark will no longer have the right to print or to distribute my book. The right is now reserved with Palmetto through Nextstone. So the book will still be available with our partners at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, Walmart, Kobo, in hardcover, paperback, and ebook. The book is available at in Audible. There hasn't been any change as it relates to the audio copy or the Nook copy of the book. It is available, and you can get that. But we've also updated the copyright page. We've made some changes to some dates and to some typo and grammatical errors and some structure. So the book is now updated, and it will be available through Palmetto Publishers. Will now be our global distribution partners, and they are also our publishers. Now, as it relates to neoliberal globalization reconsidered, neo-capitalism and the death of nation, my upcoming book, we are hoping to publish it. We're hoping that Haymarket will publish the book. I just got an email up to yesterday from the editors indicating that they have received the book and they are reviewing it. It's with their readers, and we're hoping that we will get some positive news that they will publish the book. We are waiting for that eagerly. As soon as we get word, we will let you know of that. This is the Neoliberal Round podcast. We'll be right back after these messages. I have several podcast episodes to talk about. I haven't done a podcast in a while. One episode, of course, the Castro v. Trump part 3 series. We're gonna have to have a follow up on that. Probably nothing. That won't happen until maybe later this week.
Yeah, I haven't heard you say anything about
the Castro v. Trump. Yes, I know.
Is this case still going?
This case is still going. Yes, and there's also there's Fox News.
Fox News. Did you
Fox
see
News
that
is
they're paying
$787 million, and the reason
dollars
why they have decided to settle
in a
is
defamation case.
because they don't want this case to go any further. Because guess what? The public will know more. We will know more, so they have decided to settle. Okay. Now you see what's going on with the coronavirus. It's quite interesting what's going on with the coronavirus. They were doing a research. The research in the technology to produce a COVID vaccine was years in the making. They were already putting research. Millionaires and billionaires in the US and Europe and so on was investing in a research.
Where you going?
Was investing in a research. And while doing that, the research, the thing broke. There was a leakage. There was a leakage.
Come on, bro.
Alright. But anyways, apart from that, we also have to do an episode in terms of the mayoral race. What our Americans think. Do Americans think?
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, good. Good. Be careful.
Thank you. Yes. About the mayor's race. Many people were suspicious of COVID. Many people were suspicious of COVID, the vaccines, and the science behind it. However, the virus appeared to have been relatively new and mutating, and people were dying, and then the rush for a vaccine, a cure. Within a few weeks, pharmaceutical companies were boasting a vaccine which the FDA broke from regulation to authorize and later approve. The vaccine was even made a requirement for work and entrance into various life activities, violating human rights. Nevertheless, scientists hailed it as revolutionary given the use of mRNA technology in science. However, we learned yesterday, and a few weeks before that COVID was created in a lab in Wuhan, China, by scientists working on a vaccine for COVID. The research behind the drug to combat COVID was years in the making, But somehow the same vaccine that was being developed to cure the possibility of a virus led to a leakage that caused the said virus the research lab was trying to prepare for. While the vaccine was being developed in China, wealthy investors in the US, UK, and around the world were putting their monies in the research with the promise of huge returns, so that the virus became a pandemic that the said vaccine research was used to develop into the vaccine we have today. The bottom line was to make profit, was it? As expired vaccines were updated and extended beyond shelf life to meet profit margins and save monetary losses and investments. Hence the question of whether or not we can trust science becomes an issue. I say to you that science has become what religion was. And if you challenge religion, you were burned to the stake. Today, we remember that many persons were challenged in the science behind COVID, and they were burned to the stake. They were banned. Their license were taken away. They were removed. They were seen as disruptors and so on. Science is not the end all of all things. Just as how religion makes mistakes, science makes mistakes. This is how religion is trying to make sense of all things. Science hasn't discovered the essence of all things and make errors. We talk about medical malpractice. We'll talk about that when we come back.
All right.
I can hear you now.
Perfect.
But you were talking about your uncle and was very instrumental in your life. And were you always interested in science?
I was always interested in science. I did not know what I was going to do with it. I thought about the health professions, medicine, etc. But I think I just discovered that I enjoyed doing math and chemistry the most. And so I decided to go in one of those two paths.
Is there until you enjoy that? So that's one of the reasons. Any particular social issues might have wanted to push you into that, trying to understand self, understand society?
No, it was purely just a love for the work, the material. I found myself on Saturday nights just doing chemistry problems. I just enjoyed thinking about things on a molecular and atomic level, and understanding, how atoms interact with each other. There were no social or societal problems that drew me to chemistry. I wasn't doing it because I saw something in the world that I wanted to address. It was just a pure how it made me feel. Being able to tackle these problems and successfully do them was really the motivation for me. I think as a young child, I was searching for something I was good at, And once I found that I was good at chemistry, I just latched onto it.
I do. But you look like you have grown younger and not older. So
maybe some of the chemicals in the lab that I'm playing with, I'll let you know once I figure out which one it is. I can bottle it and sell it. As the fountain of youth.
Oh my God. What's your secret? What's your secret?
Secret? There is no secret. Be joyful, smile more.
Right. You've been a lot. I know you went to you were at Penn, and then you went to UCLA. What was that like?
UC Berkeley.
Berkeley. Okay, yeah. UC Berkeley, and that's a top college right there. Yeah, and I know you studied chemistry.
Yes.
What you study? What are some of the things that you studied and you got into?
So I can tell you about what I studied at University of Pennsylvania. I was working a lot on developing these compounds that were powerful at addressing certain types of cancers. And it really worked by disrupting a signaling pathway that's used by a number of cancers like basal cell carcinomas, and other types of cancers as a way for them to proliferate. And so
Yeah.
we found these class of compounds that were very powerful at disrupting that pathway. And the pathway they were hijacking was really the hedgehog signaling pathway is really known for its utility in embryonic development. But as adults, we don't use that pathway anymore, right?
Yeah.
Cancers use that pathway for them to proliferate. So
Right.
finding a way to shut it down is a great way of addressing cancer growth and proliferation. And so we developed a number of compounds, designed analogs of those compounds to find ones that have high activity against these cancer cell lines.
Yes.
And so, I spent a lot of my time just synthesizing these compounds.
Yes.
We synthesized them using steroids. So we manipulated steroids into structures that have these activities. So that's what I did in my PhD work primarily. There's a bunch of other stuff I did, but that was the main focus. And then in my postdoctoral work, I went to Berkeley, and I worked with Richmond Sarpong, who is an excellent, amazing. In my PhD work, I worked with Jeffrey Winkler, excellent, amazing scientist. But my postdoctoral work, I worked with Richmond Sarpong, who was an inspiration to me, not only because of his chemistry, but because he was a Black chemist. He was from Ghana. And just to see a successful Black chemist at this junction in my career really pushed me to, keep, like going forward. And the work I did in his lab was we started off with a total synthesis project. We're working on the synthesis of a natural compound that no one has ever made before. And we came across some stumbling blocks, but then after that, we worked on some methodology to develop some methods for synthesizing structures that are really well present in a structure within a class of molecules. And so got a lot of training from him, and that's, went on to my own independent career, took some of what I learned, and then I've since developed my own research project that I have students working on.
And so you're working on a project. I don't know if is it secret? Can you share a little bit about it?
Definitely. I've published a number of papers on the work we're doing so far, but what we're doing, so I work with exclusively undergraduate students, right? So that in itself is a challenge, and I think a lot of people who are thinking in going to academia who might be listening to this will need to think about the types of work you do with different populations, right? So with graduate students, you can kind of imagine addressing any really large-scale problem because they're working all day, 6 days a week on basis. But with undergraduate students, research is really an added on, right, to their course. And so you have to be strategic with the research goals you address or you design. And so for me, what my students and I are working on is we're really developing methods for making what we call heterocycles. Heterocycles are really ring structures that have primarily carbon atoms in the ring, but like nitrogen, sulfur, or oxygen atoms are present in them as well. And the reason why we want to make these ring structures is because over 80% of small molecules in the pharmaceutical industry have these structures embedded in them. And so most of the drugs that people are taking, have these structures in them. And so it's important for us to have really effective and efficient ways of rapidly accessing these structures. And so we are using copper chemistry. Copper is a catalyst to facilitate the formation of these ring systems in very quick order. And so every time we develop a new synthesis for one of these ring systems, we publish it, we put it out there so that hopefully if pharmaceutical companies or other people with interest want to make these molecules, they can use our method for synthesizing them. But we are not interested in making any drugs. We just want to show others how they can make their drugs better.
Right. Okay. Nice. Like drugs, we're talking drugs like with all the side effects that some of the drugs have. Your job is you also try to develop a methodology that helps to mitigate or minimize some of these side effects.
Well, right. So the side effects are going to come primarily from the structure, and if the structure needs to be changed and it's one that we've designed, then they can use our method for making that. So we're continuing to work, and we have a library of compounds or different classes of compounds that we want to use this chemistry to build, and we'll keep working on it and pushing it out.
And I know you are an adjunct professor at the College of. Is it
Actually, I'm
adjunct?
associate now. I got tenured 4 years ago. When was
Yes.
it? 2019.
Okay. I
So
was telling you
I'm
about your
an
professor.
associate professor now.
Oh,
and I'm actually planning on going up to full professor in a few years.
Oh my, well, I am rooting for you. I know you're going to be doing, I know that's going to be happening soon. I have so many I think I have 3 very important questions to ask.
Let's hear them.
One of them have to do with what's happening in Jamaica or in third world countries. I wrote an article just before I came to the US in the Gleaner, published it in the Jamaica Gleaner, and I said science and technology is the key.
Yes.
And I republished that article where I talk about one of the ways some of these Caribbean countries can effectively deal with some of the issues. They have to be competitive. Yes. In order to be competitive, they have to be more technological. Take advantage of technology, take advantage of science. And I've oftentimes said, we need to do the Caribbean islands and many of these poor countries are developing countries, or countries of the global south have to spend a lot of time to develop their science and technology. From where you sit as a scientist, and and here you are in the US. I don't know if you've done any work with the Jamaican government or with the Ministry of with the Science and Technology Unit in Jamaica or some of these other countries. From where and even in African American communities, because when we met on Penn, you're from Jamaica, but we met at Penn. I was shocked when I said, "Oh wow, you're studying chemistry." It's not oftentimes we see Black people or people from the global South having an interest in chemistry. So what do you see from what you see, what's happening in terms of science and technology in African American communities and in Caribbean countries, and where you're from, and what can we do more to get people more interested and involved in developing molecules and breakthroughs and so on?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. One is people are choosing careers, or young people are choosing careers they think will help them to climb out of poverty. And unfortunately for a lot of students, they don't view pure science as the way to do that, right?
They think it's headache.
Right. So it's and if they go into science, they're thinking about medicine, right? The more prestigious.
Yes, that is true.
I need to be a doctor. If they're thinking science, or sometimes a nurse, but they're not thinking about pure science like chemistry, biology, physics, typically, because those aren't careers that people think of as high-paying jobs.
Yes.
For a lot of people, you're growing up in poverty. The most important thing is for you to get your family and yourselves out of poverty, and you're thinking about jobs that can get you that, or to go into business, or interest. I think that's one thing, is the interest, where we don't have a lot of interest in our communities for doing pure science. But also the other reason I think for that is because of our education system, right?
Yeah.
A lot of our communities are not getting the best any funding to support our science programs.
Yes.
And we're not seeing, high-paying jobs in these communities. Only seeing those jobs in the suburbs and in the private schools. And the third part I think about it is representation. You when people think of a scientist, they think of an old white guy in a lab coat.
Yes.
Bill Nye, for example.
Ricardo and we've been seeing your pages, and we say, "Oh, he's having fun."
Exactly.
You on TikTok? I saw you on TikTok with some beautiful, amazing videos. You are, of course, so that onto that last point, I agree with you. When we think of those people, we think of people and older Caucasian guy. He's not Asian. Caucasian. He's Asian. So sorry to cut you though.
Oh no, you're fine. Yeah. So that's the problem I see facing. Now, some other places have really invested in this. I mean, countries like India and Asia in general have done a really good job of investing in the kinds of education that would lead to people going into STEM fields, STEM disciplines more. So right now, 50 years ago, it was primarily white folks who were scientists, and now we've seen a significant influx of Asians, Southeast Asians in the field, doing excellent work. We really, as you rightfully pointed out, have not seen the same for Black hope in getting involved in STEM fields. And it's important because there are lots of disparities for Black people when we don't have scientists, right? We see the health disparities in terms of outcomes for Black women, pregnancies. We see that with COVID. We see that with things like facial recognition software programs that are not able to recognize or falsely recognize Black people because we don't have scientists who are thinking about inputting databases that
is true.
Will help that involve Black people in general. So we need more scientists across the board, to not just come up with solutions to the questions we face as a global society, but also to think of the right questions to ask.
That's great. And you look what's going on with issues in COVID. Some of these countries are struggling to get to develop drugs or whatever. And my question: have you been involved? Have you spoken with anybody from Jamaica about your research and your findings and how?
I have not, and to be fair and to be honest, this is, I think, one of the things I really wish I could work on, or I'm hoping, I should say, to improve on, and that is my relationship with Jamaica and connections, even if it's just purely on a scientific level. But I have not been involved. And if anybody's listening to this and knows
they are going to be listening
ways for us to connect, please let me know. I have sat on a panel at the University of West Indies, but beyond that, I have not been involved really in scientifically. But I'd love to, work with people there and, share my work, hear what people are doing and get involved somehow. I just guess from my, where I sit right now, it's really not easy to make those connections. They have to happen organically, and so maybe I need to go to a conference in Jamaica or something.
I will help you with that part. I'm going to Jamaica soon. I will help you with that part. I have some connections at the Ministry of Education. I have some connections in the Jamaican government. So I will definitely reach out and start the connection. This is some of the positive things that needs to happen. I believe, these countries are lacking people like you, people like you to help them, because I've always said science and technology is the key. And look at you working on molecules to make drugs much more effective. And I think this is what's lacking in some of these countries. So I think that, now tell me, what is the next, there are two things I want to ask you about. I wanted to ask you about financing. How are you able to navigate financially to be able to, because you had to go, how are you able to navigate and study? And some people are saying, no, it's too much money after all those student loans. Oh my God.
Well, I kind of alluded to that in the beginning when I talked about opportunity being what got me here. And to be fair, there are ways for people to get their education paid for. I would say there are a number of scholarships available for those who are considering studying abroad, like in the United States or other countries, that will cover minimally your tuition. And once you're in the education system here and you've completed a college degree, your PhD is usually free. And so your PhD in the STEM disciplines are usually free. And so I didn't pay a dime for my PhD. I actually got paid because a requirement for doing a PhD is that you have to teach.
That is true.
Right? So I think that's something people need to know, is that if you get into a PhD program, in most countries, you will get paid. And you don't have to pay. So the college level education is primarily the hurdle. How are you going to get that education? How are you going to pay for that education? And that you can get through scholarships if you're competitive, I would say, most institutions. So it's really surprisingly way less expensive to go into the STEM disciplines or into the foundational sciences than it is to go into medicine.
That is true. That is true.
So,
And the next question is, as you look at what's going on in our society today, in terms of all these diseases, and there are more diseases, and what is the contribution of chemistry, of science, and what can we do more effectively Well, from where you sit as a scientist, what is being done now in terms of combating diseases and bacteria and drugs? We heard of using COVID that's going on, and what are any ideas about what's going on and how we can be more effective in terms of dealing with and responding to some? And people don't want to be vaccinated. People are afraid of drugs and so on. There's this fear, and since you work as a chemist, you help to create stuff, methodologies that leads to molecule development, that leads to better drugs and so on. And vaccines as well. Any suggestion or any ideas to what we can do to what's happening in industry and what we can do to improve?
So one thing I would say is this. Scientists are doing way more than people realize. I think science right now, I think the whole COVID pandemic, I think has demonstrated, although people might not have realized it, how powerful science is.
Yes.
I mean, if you think about it, after, COVID was, the first variant was identified, they sequenced the whole gene. They sequenced COVID in like a month, right? They already knew the structure of COVID. They knew the primary target within a month, and they started developing vaccines to address that. That wasn't possible 10, 15, 20 years ago. They're using new technology like mRNA technology to develop vaccines. And that in itself is beyond what people thought were possible. Normally it would take decades for people to come up with a vaccine. And that's part of the concern that I think a lot of people have. Is like, COVID was identified 2 months ago, and 6 months later, they already have a vaccine. It's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Yes, we're really good at doing what we do right now. We're as good as we'll ever be. But people, as a result, doing it too quickly, people don't trust scientists.
We are at the pinnacle. I'm one of those that would write. Yes, so
we'll talk about that. But science, I would say, is at its pinnacle right now in terms of addressing a number of diseases. The fact that we can develop vaccines so quickly for COVID is in itself, I would say.
You said the mRNA technology.
mRNA.
What is that?
So mRNA is messenger RNA, ribonucleic acid. Is kind of like a strategy for basically tricking the body into thinking that the vaccine is in fact an mRNA, and it will read it and it will use it as an instruction to design what looks like the part of the spike protein of the COVID. So basically, it'll design a fake version of COVID, and the body will be like, this is a foreign entity, let me develop some defenses against it. And then when the real COVID enters your body, those defenses are already developed and ready to attack. And so that's the technology that's new and developed, and clearly it works extremely well. Of course, it's hard for it to keep working because COVID keeps mutating.
Yes.
And so the body is looking for a different version of COVID, and the new versions are evading the technology, but it's just impossible. They would have to keep making a new vaccine for each version, and that's just not.
Were you part of any kind of work, research?
I was not part of, that's not my area of expertise. So I was not a part of, I didn't do anything related to COVID in terms of my research. So it's crazy when people think about the breadth of research that's going on in the scientific world.
Yes.
There's so much going on, and everybody has their little niche. Within the community.
And were you working on cancer? And I know you do cancer research.
I did some work developing structure molecules for cancer. But I mean, as a chemist, we are primarily focused on developing molecules, or at least as an organic chemist. My job is primarily focused on developing the molecules. So I wouldn't do, even if I were working directly with some diseases, I would not be the one doing any of the work on like testing and doing assays to see like how effective it is. I'd literally just be building the molecule and sending it off to the people who do the testing and evaluation and doing the figuring out the side effects, etc. So we all have a role to play. It's all connected. It's all interdisciplinary these days. So no one field can address anything. And that's why we're able to work so quickly, because people are coming together with the technology. You can access data from one country and you can collaborate pretty easily and move things forward quickly.
Oh, nice. And as we move beyond that, how are you enjoying life now? I know you went from Jamaica, then you were in Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
then
to California. Now I'm in Massachusetts. Yeah.
And then the other day I spoke. You were busy doing conferences and traveling, and I want to ask. My last question is going to be, what's next for Andre? But before I ask you, what is next? Tell me how are you changing, and how have all this experience impacted and changed and adjusted you and so on, and how is it affecting you? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely got a huge impact, and you're pushing me to reflect here, which is good.
Yes.
When I think about like where I came from and where I am now, and you're right, like I didn't think a little boy growing up in Kingston, Jamaica, would, I mean, I grew up in jungle as people first, and then I moved to Portmore, but I think about growing up in
we lived in Portmore. I'm from Portmore.
Exactly,
too.
yeah.
Yes, so there we go, yes.
So, and being in the position I am today, so that's huge. And I think it's something I want every young Jamaican to recognize, that they can do this too. But when I think about next, like what I really want to do is to really show that, it doesn't matter where you come from, you can be excellent, and show that diversity, the representation. I want people to see themselves in me. And so definitely that's a goal of mine. An immediate long-term goal. An immediate goal really is just to keep, putting my name out there, keep doing my research, get my publications out.
Yes.
I'm very much becoming invested a lot in diversity, equity, and inclusion work.
Nice.
Something I want to do a lot to help others think about different ways in which they can educate the future, particularly because the future in America, the demographics are changing. We'll start thinking, those people haven't been thinking about it, but we have to start thinking about how we're going to be educating a different demographic. Really, efforts around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and really just the visibility piece of like minority scientists, as well as, keep pushing my work, my research out there.
That's good. And and just so you know, you are welcome to write for the Neoliberal Round, for the Neoliberal Corporation. We have websites and we put out articles and blogs. And so if you want to share an article one of these days, please, I'm open to that. Please share some of your articles. Your students can also share their articles and their writings on the Neoliberal Corporation's website. We have a journal. We have also this thing called I also have another project I'm working on, towards developing a Caribbean Pan-African journal or perspective. So at the end of the year, the students from my class, the best papers are showcased in that journal. That's what I'm working towards. Hopefully, that's something we could collaborate on. We could think about that. Your mind is needed. Yeah. Your mind is needed. Let's get back to really something like, do you still use the Wilson license, the Wilson racket?
No, actually, I switched over to
Babylon.
Yeah. I started off with a Wilson, but when we were at Penn, I switched to a Babylon, and I've stayed with that.
And I got 2 Babylons with me because of you. I still have them.
I love them. Rafael Nadal is my favorite tennis player, so
And Rafael Nadal has beaten Roger Federer. Did you think that would ever happen?
I did not think that would ever happen. And
me too.
Here we are. Yeah.
yes, me too. We only have about 3 minutes left for the podcast. So as we get ready to wrap up, and I want to ask you one last question about as you think about life and in general, and I said it's life and breakthrough and science. How can we as a society work to develop life? And how can science be useful in doing that? With what's going on. By the way, one of my fraternal brothers just had a major accident. Major accident. A 19-year-old young man broke the life. Ricardo had an accident just like that too. The guy broke the life. But it's a lot that's going on in society. There is crime and violence, and there's this new disease called SARS. No,
it's not SARS. Monkeypox. Monkeypox is the latest one. Everybody.
Monkeypox. I am not a scientist. That's not my area of expertise. I'm more social. I'm big on economics and those kind of things. But so monkeypox is what's going on, and every time you cure COVID, I'm sorry, we didn't cure COVID, but they develop a treatment for that and so on and so forth. The next thing you know, it's monkeypox. And are these mutations or what's going on?
I mean, we live in a global world. Disease spread much easier now than they did before. All it takes is for one person, to travel on a plane, and boom, it's spread. So we're dealing with a lot more spread, and every now and then there's there's an uprising of
yes,
it's part of life, I would say. It's not gonna stop. Maybe we'll settle down for a few years, and then 10-20 years from now there'll be another outbreak of another cluster or family.
Yes.
So COVID and all that there are all these coronaviruses, all started with SARS and MERS. That's a whole class that keep it evolving, mutating, and who knows if another coronavirus in 10 years or so will come to the light, and we'll just have to deal with them as they come. So,
and these aren't conspiracy, because there are some people.
No. People are all about
government strategy to get people to control anybody.
No, they're not. They're not conspiracies. At least no scientist believes that.
That is true. And I have some friends who live in Philadelphia who they have not been vaccinated because they still have some kind of. They still believe that it's some conspiracy, and so
people are rightfully skeptical. We do not educate our country, whether it's in Jamaica or the U.S. Basic science literacy is missing, I would say, from most of from most of the education we see around the world, and so people have a hard time understanding complex concepts. Something as simple as, COVID has mutated, and so the vaccines that we developed don't work for the new variants. Even that whole concept is lost on a lot of people. Like, you made a vaccine, why doesn't it work on the new variants? And people don't understand that. They don't understand what thing it means when something mutates. They don't understand how vaccines work, and you can't expect them to understand that. And so I think science communication is what is needed, and that's why we need more people, maybe like myself and others out there who are skillful enough to communicate these complex concepts to a general population, so people can understand. And what that requires is a diversity of the science communicators out there. We need people who can speak to their own communities in ways they can understand.
Yes,
get these, and people they trust. Right, so that's why diversity in science matters as much as anywhere else.
That last point you made is really, you hit it on the head. And by the way, we need more scientists to be more on podcasts. But I know there's just one guy that I follow. He's on Twitter. But one of the things that we can do, podcast is the new way. Streaming, people are listening to streams now. Like this one young man said to me recently, "Wow, you watch TV with ads? What's that?"
I don't blame him. I don't either. Nobody wants to see the ads anymore. Streaming services are perfect for that.
Yes, everybody is streaming. So, and I think that's a good way to get the word out. And I just talk about communication. I've oftentimes said, what is communication? Communication is to make popular what was the monopoly. You know what I mean? So I hope that, as you're part of the science community, I hope that as you grow and as you develop, you can also be an influencer, a thermometer, but a thermostat, as they say, who regulates, And I hope that I can have you come back on this show in the future to comment, on science and different issues that might be happening in the science world or in medically. I would love to have you come back and to have you a regular contributor to the show as we grow and develop and go and get larger. I would love you to come back regularly, talk about what's going on your neck of the woods, what's going on in science and medicine, because we do need, as you said, what is lacking is that science communication. I'm so happy I had you on the show to talk about some stuff, because
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me. This was fantastic.
Yeah, man, and it was an hour long, but thank you so much. And just so you know, if people want to get in touch with you, they want you to speak at some because you do speaking engagement, you go around all of the world speaking. Okay, and if they want to access your work, tell us. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can find me. My website is isaacslab.com, ISAACSLAB.com. And also you can follow my social media. I use Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and they're all the same handle. It's it's DRDRE 4000. So Dr. Dre 4000. That's my handle. Okay. My username on all those platforms. Yeah.
Dr. Dre, not that Dr. Dre, the other Dr. Dre. The Dr. Dre.
Yeah, it was kind of inspired by Dr. Dre, the rapper, and Andre 3000, the singer. So I kind of combined those two, but I had to one up him. I couldn't be 3000. I had to be 4. So
you have to be
DRE 4000. Yeah, Dr. Dre 4000. So.
A lot of people who have Dre, whose name is Andre, always. The pages are always some Dr. Dre something. So.
Yes, exactly. So just using that to get the the street cred.
Yes, but you're the real Dr. Dre, though. You're the real Dr. Dre 4000. But Dr. Dre, thank you. I will be doing one of my first conferences speaking about my work on globalization. I'm looking forward to that. But you've been one of my greatest inspirations. And so, you are ahead of me, and I came and I was inspired by you. Then when you finished, you said, I'm going to do my postdoc. I'm like, what? You're doing a postdoc? Well, might as well. I did another master's, and then I'm doing a PhD. So so I was inspired by you, and that's what we need. People like you to just inspire others, as you are inspiring me. And, I was inspired by you with Nadal, and I'm using Babula rackets now. My twin brother as well. But of course, academically speaking, I was really inspired by you. I didn't tell you that, but I'm always inspired by you. People like you.
Very kind of you.
Yes.
Well, we have to pay it forward, right? There are people who inspired me, and their inspiration has led me to where I am today. And so I hope to do the same for the younger generation myself.
Yeah, man. And this particular show will be available on video after I've edited it, and it will be available on the audio on Stitcher, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Anchor, Dr. FM, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. You can also access this show. It's got the transcripts will be available verbatim. All the transcripts will be available in the Neoliberal.com and RenaldoCMcKenzie.com. It will also be available in our LinkedIn commentary at Reverend Renaldo-C-McKenzie in the Neoliberal commentary. And please send us your feedback. And subscribe to this show and to our website and to our corporation, the Neoliberal Corporation, which is serving the world today to solve tomorrow's challenges. And just so you know, donate to the show at anchor.fm/theneoliberal/support. Thank you so much for listening and or watching to the show. And continue to subscribe, continue to support, continue to let us know how we can improve the show. And if you have articles, if you have blogs, if you want to co-host the program, let me know. Send me an email, RenaldoCMcKenzie@gmail.com or RenaldoCMcKenzie@theneoliberal.com. Walker. And of course, thank you so much. You have the last word.
No, it's great to be here. I'm really proud of what you're doing. I think this is very important for work that you're doing to, connect Caribbean communities to each other and to share success stories from the Caribbean, and also to really empower those who have come from these communities to continue to do the work they're doing and to represent, their culture well. So thank you for giving me this opportunity, and keep up the good work.
And I will talk with our Prime Minister. I will give Mr. Holness and the Minister of Education a phone call, let them know about you. I'll let them know about you. You need to be known about some of these communities. All right? Take care, brother.
Take care.
And when I come to Massachusetts, we're going to hit this.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Take care. And by the way, if you listen to my not the previous one, the one before the previous one, I interviewed the founder of the Tennis League Network.
Oh, really?
Yes. And he lives in Massachusetts as well.
Oh, okay.
And but I know you're busy. You guys are busy. So whenever you get a chance, keep in touch.
All right, will do.
Yeah, man. Bye-bye.